His Eminence John Cardinal Onaiyekan joins us this morning. He is Archbishop Emeritus of Abuja Diocese. He joins us. Thank you so much, Your Eminence, for joining us this morning. Elections have come and gone. 26 or thereabout days before the inauguration of the next governments at the federal level and the states where elections held for governorship candidates. From your assessment of post-election conversations, what is your opinion of how well or not we have fared in that face of all of the discordant tunes and divisive comments and statements that we have seen and heard?
Thank you very much for bringing me to your program. You started by saying the election has come and gone. I'm just wondering, is the election over? I'm saying this because according to the electoral law, the elections are not over until it is over, and there are cases in court that has not been disposed with. That is why we are in an anomalous situation. We have a declared president-elect whose election is being challenged and the courts are handling it. I think I'm entitled to take the position that I'm still waiting for the courts to tell me who won the election. That is why I say we're in an anomalous situation. And I'm one of those who have been saying it doesn't make much sense to be swearing in people when they are still in court. I know it has happened with governors. But the outcome has really not been the best of all cases. I don't think we ought to review our election process so as to make sure that we do have a winner who will be sworn in and whom everybody will rally around. It is still, I cannot understand. I am not a legal man, I'm not a judge. It's a pity that it's taking so long for the courts to make up their mind on this matter. Therefore, my problem now is that the whole system of our election need to be properly reviewed so that it should be easier for winners to emerge according to the wishes of the people. And here, therefore, I even have very basic questions. Do we really want democracy? From what we are seeing from political actors, it seems many of them are not really interested in democracy. They want power by all means. By all means. Now, this is an issue we must agree. Do you know, we know that for 30 years, this country was ruled by people who held guns, not by democracy. We were forced to obey everybody. And they became our president, one after the other. But we agreed at that time that that was not the way for Nigeria to move. If we don't want it with people carrying guns, well, I don't think we should be accepting it with people who can just manipulate the system and frustrate the wishes of the people.
Your Eminence, if I can...
Because they have resources.
My sincere apologies. If I can just quickly take, follow up on one of the issues that you raised earlier when you said you're still waiting for the courts to tell you who won the election. There have been a number of contestations by some civil society organizations that it's the people, the ballot, that should be telling us who won and not the courts. That's one. Secondly, there is no election, presidential, governorship, National Assembly. I don't remember any election we've had in Nigeria, especially in this republic, that has not been contested by one person or the other, including the current president, whose election was contested like 1 or 2 years into his presidency the first time. I'm not sure it happened the second time. So with that in mind, do you still think that we need to wait for the courts?
Well, the country cannot wait indefinitely. The point I am making is this. Obviously, it is the people who decide who should be their ruler. By all things being equal, the process that INEC is supposed to have worked on should have brought out a winner that is acceptable to the people. The courts have come in now because there's a discrepancy. And I'm saying what you have just said confirms my feelings that it is not right to have a system that is constantly contested. We should go and find out how is it that every election is being contested. And I think we need to look more carefully at the constitution of INEC. How independent is it? How is it able to actually come out with the wishes of the people? I think the past election has shown very well that we have serious issues in this matter. We had hoped that technology will help us. But we are also seeing now that technology is in the hands of human beings. So we should have to go back to ourselves as a nation. If we decide we will rule ourselves democratically, we must all accept the rules of democracy. And those who want to be in power should allow that rule to run its course. We are seeing so much discussion now about politicians, and the issues that concerns them is who is going to occupy what position in the House, in the National Assembly. We are not hearing about what is going to happen to Nigeria. And we have serious problems on our hands.
Okay. Your Eminence. Please land on that point.
Yes?
Please land on that point, sir.
Pardon? I mean, we have serious problems on our hands,
yes,
both in terms of security, economy, corruption, and we still have to face it.
Yeah. Well, we'll touch on some of those issues and take your opinion on some of them. But concerning the elections, which is the route through which we employ people who will do the jobs that you have just outlined, there are those who think we have made some significant progress in this particular election compared to previous elections. This is the first time, for instance, that a president-elect is not having up to 50% of all the total votes cast, and the two other parties that are runners-up have enough votes to counter. That's one. Secondly, this is the first time that a good number of governors who wanted to go to the National Assembly were defeated in their own states and are not able to make it to the National Assembly. A number of upsets that make this 2023 election clearly different from previous ones. This is also the first time we're having a third political party take the kind of leadership it has taken in this election, as opposed to others where we've had only 2 leading political parties. In this one, we have 3. There are those who think that because of these and several other facts that we may not be able to detail right now, we have made some significant progress in our electioneering. What's your opinion on that?
Well, my opinion is this. I do not think we should be congratulating ourselves when the right thing happens. We should not be expecting that we shall continue to run rigged elections. And to say we have done very well in this election because some governors lost their bid, it's normal now that they should lose if they don't deserve to win. That is the point we are making. This particular election, if we have had so much problem about it, is because the people have risen. The people have decided that they can no longer continue to accept things being done badly. And I think all Nigerians should rally around that idea that we can do better than we are doing. Why is our country not moving forward? Because we have not been doing things well. So we must not settle for just managing. The rest of Africa is looking up to us, and they are disappointed in us. So and I'm surprised that you are saying that we have done very well. I think we have not done very well. We must accept that so that we can look at what has happened in 2023 and correct things from the root. So, and to make sure that it will not be possible for the wrong people to be put in very sensitive positions. We want to make sure that INEC is truly independent. The system should not be so cumbersome. And I think, let me put in here, the whole issues of our national identity card. I don't know why it is impossible. Most countries, they go vote with their identity cards. So all that will remove all these PVC problems. I'm hoping that before the next election, a real progress will be made. Those who are contesting the present election, I'm sure they have their reasons for it. That is why the court is important. People are saying the court is the last hope of the ordinary man. So our courts are now on trial. We are waiting. If tomorrow a decision is taken, then I will be comfortable with whomever emerges. I will accept him, even whether I like him or not. I accepted military rulers, so I will accept anybody who emerges. And I do hope the person will rally around Nigerians so that we can jointly face our serious problems. That in the moment this anomalous situation should end.
Indeed, Cardinal, I believe that a lot of Nigerians also share your sentiments in terms of, being able to finish the electoral petitions, particularly that of the presidential election petitions before swearing in. But this is what we currently have. I mean, we've seen this happen over the years since our democracy returned in 1999. That subsequently, since 2003, elections have been disputed, particularly the presidential elections, and oftentimes they, go on and on and on for years, as a matter of fact, until recently when there were electoral reforms now setting time frames within which these election petitions must be conducted. So we know for now, for instance, that the presidential election petition from start to finish, that's from the appeal court to the Supreme Court, must not go beyond a period of 10 months, must be concluded within a period of 10 months. This is what we currently have. And of course, a lot of people will say we certainly can do better if we have the will to. But this is where we are now, that we're going to experience an inauguration with election petition tribunals still ongoing, both at the presidential level and at the state level as well. How do you think that, given what we have, which is a systemic thing, which is now let's say a countrywide situation, how do you think those who have now been given certificates of return, how do you think that they will be able to rally around? Because they will still have their responsibility beyond May 29, wouldn't they?
I'm talking of the government by democracy. This is what we have now. But I am saying we should be able to think beyond what we have now. If we can arrive at setting a limit of 10 months, there is no reason why we shouldn't set a limit that is less than 10 months, that insists that everything must be disposed of before swearing in. This is not a miracle. It does not require a miracle. We should look at other countries who have managed to do it that way. And they have done it because they have organized their electoral system in such a way that litigations are not dragged on indefinitely. Now, my friend, just my feeling is this. If I win an election and everybody supports my victory, I can face my work with confidence. And I do know that the people around are with me. The kind of problem we have in Nigeria is such that we expect now that we should be able to have rulers who do not labor under questions of legitimacy. They should be able to move on and get the job done and have all of us supporting the work. That is why the person who has now been proclaimed our president-elect has his job very clearly cut out for him. The way this discussion is going, obviously, the court will not finish their work before the swearing in. So we have to settle again for that situation. Meaning having a president ruling us that is under contention. And I'm saying it is not the best for the country. We can do better for ourselves. It's not about one person or the other. I never knew our president-elect. That's not issue. It's not the person, not even the party. I'm talking about what is best for this country, Nigeria. We cannot continue to manage and think that things will go well.
Cardinal, I I think what I was trying to say is that what you're actually asking for is ideal. I mean, and a lot of people support that. But we know that as we currently speak, the tribunals are going to start sitting, especially the Presidential Election Tribunal will start sitting on Monday. I'm trying to remember what date Monday will be. But we know that they will not be able to conclude sitting before inauguration. So we will have a president whose seat will still be contested, as you pointed out, beyond May 29. So what do you think should happen in this scenario, even while we continue to see how we can improve the process?
No, but what I am just saying is that we are now faced with a fait accompli. A situation we have before us. And all of us Nigerians must do our best to make the best of the situation. But I do not think we should consider what I'm saying as just the ideal, meaning an ideal that cannot be achieved. I'm talking not of an ideal that is beyond, that is only utopic. I'm talking of how things ought to be, the right thing to be done. And if our electoral laws does not include that, it should look into itself. And the National Assembly can take that up. It is in the interest of politicians themselves. That is, if they are interested in a democratic election.
Your Eminence, if I may come in here, making the most of the situation as it is. We do know that the tribunals, for instance, will start sitting from the 8th. Pre-tribunal hearings will start from the 8th to determine what the schedule will be like. But if we're going to look to sort of like set an agenda for the situation we have now, where possibly swearing is going to happen before the tribunals are done, what agenda would you want to lay out for the next administration, vis-a-vis where we're coming from?
Only those Nigerians who don't want to be sincere will be looking for agenda. We definitely know what the agenda is. We know that our country is not doing well. 8 years ago, Buhari told us he will face corruption. He will fix the economy. He will give us security. We are still in the same situation. Obviously, any government must face those issues. Otherwise, we can't even survive in this country. Many Nigerians have checked, the young boys who have energy are checking out. I am 80, so I'm not going anywhere. But I'm still dreaming that before I go to paradise, I should see a better Nigeria. And I believe it is possible. I'm talking as somebody who in 1960, when we had our independence, I was a student in Form 4 in my college in Benue State. I believed what we were told, that with independence, Nigeria will become like all the great nations. I've been waiting now for almost 70 years, and we are still where we are. In fact, we seem not to have made much progress. Maybe I'm expecting too much of my country. But that's because I have a high opinion of my nation, and I love my nation. And I hope that and I expect that those who are ruling us should share the same emotions, so that we can go all over the world proud.
Your Eminence, is it that...
So as far as agenda for the new government is concerned, is there all of us now will be watching. Is there going to be a change? Is there going to be an improvement? Will insecurity be reduced so that IDPs can go back to their homes? Will electricity work? Will the school run? Will our economy improve? Those are issues we are raising. So there are problems on ground, and I think the new government who has asked us to vote for them, they have a duty. They have a duty to serve us and do what is right. We shall watch. I think we should put our rulers on notice that it can no longer be business as usual. When we keep thanking and hailing rulers who do their duty. A senator comes to the constituency and digs a borehole, and everybody comes around and hails him as if it is his salary. That should end. Rulers should be the servants of the people. May I say that, Mike?
If you don't mind, Your Eminence, if I may come in here, we will need to go on a very quick break, and we'll come back to continue the conversation in a minute. Just stay with us. Welcome back. We still have with us on Sunrise Daily this morning His Eminence, John Cardinal Onaiyekan, Archbishop Emeritus of the Abuja Archdiocese. Thank you for staying with us, Your Eminence.
You're allowed to explain why I'm talking the way I'm talking. I belong to a church. I belong to a church which has a principle of what politics is. That is based on our whole idea that leadership is service. That politics is a noble but difficult art. Not everybody should be in politics, but that those who go into politics should go not thinking of their own inconvenience, but be ready to sacrifice themselves for the common good to the glory of God. Is that our idea of politics in Nigeria? If you hear what people think politics is, they think it is if you are lucky you get in and you become very rich. Then you can order people around, drive them away from the road with your siren and so on. But that is will not carry us anywhere. We have examples of countries where political leaders are really servants of the people. They are humble. They move around among the people they are serving, and the thing works well. We don't have to be extremely rich to be happy. And I think our country can gradually move in that direction. Those who have the interest of the country at heart should enter politics and change these rules. And we have a problem on our hands. And somehow you keep hearing people saying somebody has no political experience. And I ask myself, what experience? Those who have been ruling us for the past 16 years, is that the experience we want to continue with? Isn't it about time that we start asking questions? Isn't there a better way of doing things? And this is why we thank God that new voices are emerging. And I think we should see that as a sign of progress, but not continue to think that we have congratulate ourselves that we have done very well, whereas we know we have not. We don't want to deceive ourselves. What is the question, please?
Your Eminence, if in the last election, Nigeria, the fault lines in our country were really more like brought to the fore, ethnic, religious fault lines, and these fault lines came to the fore. And if you are going to have a word of advice for Nigerians, not just the politicians, Nigerians generally, I mean, going forward, even as we begin to look at how to better our democracy, how to better our nation, what would be that advice to Nigerians?
Advice, first, there's advice to Nigerians, but there's advice to the rulers. Advice to Nigerians is that poor Nigerians, we are the victims now. We are the victims. Once it comes to suffering the consequences of bad ruling, there is no difference between Christian and Muslim, between Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. So, and I think the people know that. Go to Wuse Market, go to the offices. Nigerians have no problem with one another on the basis of those fault lines that you are talking about. Unfortunately, the rulers seem to want to manipulate those fault lines because it helps them to climb into power. My advice, therefore, to the rulers is this. Not only advice, I'm begging them. One big duty they owe to Nigeria is to bring Nigerians together, to stop exploiting our differences, our religious differences, our ethnic differences, and even add on to it their political differences. To realize that what we have before us, the problems of our nation, requires that all of us join our hands together and face it. I repeat, when it comes to the consequences of bad government, which is the pains on the people, there is no fault line. The only fault line is between those who are lucky to escape and those who are caught in the problem. So the only fault line in Nigeria now, as far as I'm concerned, are those who are happy with the status quo and those who are not happy with it. And I believe the majority are not really happy.
Indeed, some people will say perhaps that's even reflected in terms of how the votes went, even as shown by INEC. I'm just wondering, I mean, talking about fault lines and the role that politicians play. You've spoken about how politicians now need to work together to unite Nigerians as new administrations come in at different levels. I'm just wondering, when you now reflect on the role that, not just ethnicity, but also the role that religion played, some people will say it would not have been possible for religion to have played such a huge role if religious leaders too did not allow it.
Well, it is easy enough to throw the blame on religious leaders instead of putting it in the right place. Although I do agree that, when in these matters, you don't know anymore when somebody is a religious leader and when he is a political religious leader with political ideas, political agenda. And we have that problem in Nigeria. But I do think that we cannot put the blame on religious leaders. If by that you mean the people we recognize as religious leaders. All I can say, though, is that religious leaders ought to be on the alert, to be careful not to allow themselves to be manipulated, and to do their best to make sure that religion becomes an asset for the good of the nation, instead of being seen all the time as if it is a problem. Let's face it, the average Nigerian who goes to mosque every Friday and goes to church every Sunday is sure in his mind that religion is good for him. It is not a liability. And it is up to the rulers to be able to harness the positive elements of religion for the good of the people, instead of climbing on it and using it because they want to climb into power. We are seeing this in all this talk about zoning, about balancing. That is, again, where ethnic differences is being used and manipulated. Not for the sake of the people, but for the sake of power. Okay, right now, our president-elect is a Yoruba man. Does that mean that every Yoruba man is now happy? We've had a Hausa Fulani man ruling us for 8 years. We still have a lot of poverty in the north. So we should not allow ourselves to be bamboozled with all this political discussion. And we religious leaders have the duty to continue to put forward the positive element of our faith. I am a Catholic, I'm a Cardinal, and I have no apologies about who I am, what I believe, because I believe that what my faith teaches me helps me to live a good life, not just as a Christian, but as a human being and a citizen. This should be seen in all religions and by all religious leaders. If Nigerian Christians did lived according to the principle of their faith, and Muslims do the same, we will have a wonderful country.
Indeed. So I'm just wondering, does it trouble you that, in spite of all of the religion that we profess, this is still where we are? And even the politicians, they are not atheists. Most of them belong to one religion or the other. So we have to ask questions as to how is it that we're really practicing this religion. As a religious leader, is this something that really disturbs you?
Looking at those primordial distinctions of religion and ethnicity, because that way you can get the people not to face the reality that is hitting them. But if you had a good government and policies are being applied and applied fairly and equitably across board, nobody will be complaining that I'm a Muslim or you are dealing me like this because I'm a Christian or because I'm a Muslim. But people will not be talking that way. I'm not putting some of these countries in the world as examples or as models, but you know that there are countries where you don't have that kind of problem, because when somebody has problem, you don't run to your pastor, you don't run to your imam, you insist on your right being given to you, because government is doing its work. Some people have said that even our political leaders have manipulated our poverty situation. Where people are poor, we are told they are no longer able to even reason well. You give them a bag of rice, and then they are supposed to vote for you and mortgage the next 4 years of their lives. And that is possible because they are poor. But if they were not poor, they would tell you, away with your bag of rice. And if they worked harder so that they cannot be manipulating people with little handouts here and there, then it will be better for everybody, including, that's where religion comes in. People come in and say, I'm a good Catholic, or I'm a good Muslim, I'm a this, I'm a good Pentecostal, and so on, vote for me. And I ask myself, no, I want to vote for you if you are going to be a good politician. I'm not saying that if you are a good Christian, you won't be a good politician. In fact, I expect that if you are a good Christian and you should be a good politician if you are a politician. But that should not be the issue. It's the whole issue about, for example, am I looking for a Christian president or a Muslim president? I'm looking for a president who will serve Nigerians in such a way that Christians and Muslims will feel at home and not have cause to be bickering among themselves. Much of the bickering between religious groups are as a result of government policies that have not been evenly distributed. And I think the religious leaders may have a lot of job to do on their own part, to be on their guard and not allow themselves and their religions to be ridiculed, to be hijacked by others for their own purposes. It's not.
Your Eminence, my apologies for yes. If you can still hear me, Your Eminence.
I'm hearing you.
Yes, I'd like you to conclude on this note, to go back in time to that time of independence that you raised the other time, and bring us quickly forward to the issue that you're just raising now, not of religion, but of God. The first national anthem of Nigeria had God in it. The second national anthem, in the second verse, starts with, "O God of creation," and it's literally a prayer. The national pledge concludes with, "So help me God." Starts with, "I pledge," and concludes with, "So help me God."
And every politician swears. And every politician swears. They swear by God.
Okay, so that's the issue. What is, if everyone is swearing by God and we are hoping for a great nation and we actually plan and pray that this great nation will happen, there are those who have argued whether or not there is a vision for which we should pray that God will help us all. There are those who wonder whether there is a vision for Nigeria for which we should pray that God will help us to achieve. What, do you see that as a significant issue?
My own understanding of religion is that God is the creator and ultimate provider. But he has created us with intellect and a will, and he has given us the wherewithal to manage our affairs well. And therefore, we have this always mentioned that we should walk and pray. We pray, but we must also walk. We cannot blame God if we are stupid and we manage our own affairs. But if we manage our affairs well, then God will bless us. And so, those who keep calling on the name of God and are doing things which are completely against the will of God as expressed by his laws and his principles, they are actually insulting God. Everybody knows when he is doing the right thing and when he's doing the bad thing. Those who rigged the election know they rigged the election. Those who didn't allow the people's will to prevail, they know it. Those who have heated up the policy, they know it in their heart of hearts. And the wonderful thing is that God himself knows them. We may not know. Even the courts may not know. But God knows them and they know themselves. So if the more we mention God, the more we should be on we should be on guard, not to be found to be using the name of God in vain. There are countries who don't want to mention God, but they are running their affairs well. But if we decide to keep mentioning God, we must run our affairs according to God's will. Otherwise, we end up giving God a bad name. God forbid. Now, as I'm now talking as a cardinal, I just ask my fellow countrymen, we should not apologize for the fact that we keep God constantly in our prayers and in our national life. We can't throw God away. But that means we must run our affairs and live our lives according to God's will, and we cannot pretend we don't know what God wants of us.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking with His Eminence John Cardinal Onaiyekan, Archbishop Emeritus of the Archdiocese of Abuja. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today, Your Eminence, and we do wish you for this.
Bless our nation. We shall overcome. Amen. But we have not reached there yet.
Amen. Thank you very much.